Hash the history of computer viruses and malware. ###CyberShield Daily. Imagine waking up one morning to find that every file on your computer has been encrypted, your bank account has been drained, and a message on your screen demands payment in Bitcoin to restore everything you've ever worked for. This isn't a scene from a science fiction movie. This is the reality that millions of people and organizations face every single year. But how did we get here? How did we go from the innocent early days of computing to a world where digital threats cost the global economy over $8 trillion annually? The answer lies in a fascinating, terrifying, and deeply human story, the history of computer viruses and malware. To understand where we are today, we need to go back to where it all began. Long before the internet existed, before personal computers sat on every desk, the theoretical groundwork for malicious software was already being laid. In 1949, mathematician John von Neumann published a paper describing self-replicating automata, programs that could copy themselves. He wasn't thinking about cybercrime. He was exploring theoretical mathematics. But that single concept planted a seed that would eventually grow into the modern malware ecosystem we know today. The first program widely recognized as a computer virus was called Creeper, created in 1971. It spread across ARPANET, the early predecessor to the internet, moving between machines and displaying the message, "I'm the Creeper, catch me if you can." Creeper wasn't destructive. It was experimental. It was curious. Shortly after, a program called Reaper was created specifically to chase Creeper down and delete it, making Reaper arguably the world's first antivirus software. This early cat-and-mouse dynamic between attacker and defender would define the cybersecurity industry for the next 5 decades. The 1980s brought personal computers into homes and offices, and with them came the first generation of viruses designed to spread through physical media. In 1982, a 15-year-old named Rich Skrenta created Elk Cloner, which spread through Apple II floppy disks and displayed a short poem on infected machines every 50th boot. It was a prank, but it was also history. Elk Cloner is widely considered the first large-scale self-replicating virus spread in the wild. Then in 1986 came Brain, created by 2 Pakistani brothers named Bazit and Amjad Farooq Alvi. Brain infected the boot sector of floppy disks and is recognized as the first PC virus targeting IBM-compatible computers. The brothers claimed they created it to protect their medical software from piracy. Whatever their intentions, they had opened a door that could never be closed. Throughout the late 1980s, viruses multiplied rapidly. The Morris worm of 1988 was a watershed moment. Created by Cornell University student Robert Tappan Morris, it was one of the first worms distributed via the internet. Morris claimed it was designed to gauge the size of the internet, but the worm had a coding flaw that caused it to replicate far too aggressively. It infected approximately 6,000 computers, a significant portion of the internet at that time, and caused millions of dollars in damage. Morris became the first person prosecuted under the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. The digital world had its first major criminal case, and suddenly everyone understood that this wasn't theoretical anymore. The 1990s saw malware evolve from novelty to genuine threat as personal computing exploded in popularity. Viruses like Michelangelo, which was set to overwrite critical disk sectors on March 6, Michelangelo's birthday, grabbed mainstream media attention in 1992. Millions of users panicked. The actual damage was smaller than feared, but the psychological impact was enormous. The general public now knew that viruses were real, and the antivirus software industry began growing rapidly in response. Email changed everything. As the internet became widely accessible in the mid to late 1990s, malware authors discovered a powerful new delivery mechanism. The Melissa virus in 1999 spread through Microsoft Word documents attached to emails. Once opened, it automatically emailed itself to the first 50 contacts in the victim's Outlook address book. Within days, it had caused over $80 million in damages, overloading email servers at corporations and government agencies worldwide. Its creator, David L. Smith, was eventually sentenced to 20 months in federal prison. Then came Elovea in the year 2000. Originating in the Philippines, this worm arrived as an email attachment with the subject line Elovea and a file called loveletterforyou.txt.vbs. People opened it because they were human, curious, hopeful, trusting. The worm overwrote files, spread itself to every contact in the victim's address book, and infected an estimated 50 million computers within 10 days. Total damages are estimated at $15 billion. No legal action was taken against its creators because the Philippines had no cybercrime legislation at the time. This prompted international discussions about the urgent need for comprehensive cybercrime laws worldwide. The early 2000s introduced us to a new breed of threat, the organized criminal network. Malware was no longer being created by curious teenagers or attention-seeking programmers. It was becoming a business. The My Doom worm of 2004 remains one of the fastest-spreading email worms in history, slowing global internet traffic at its peak and causing roughly $38 billion in damages. Around the same time, botnets, networks of compromised computers controlled remotely, became the infrastructure of choice for spam campaigns, distributed denial-of-service attacks, and credential theft. Then in 2007, a piece of malware called Stormworm demonstrated just how sophisticated these networks had become. Storm created a botnet estimated at between 1 million and 50 million infected machines, communicating through a decentralized peer-to-peer architecture that made it incredibly difficult to dismantle. Cybercriminals were now operating like technology companies, complete with infrastructure, redundancy, and customer service for fellow criminals. The year 2010 brought perhaps the most significant development in malware history, Stuxnet. This was not criminal malware. This was a weapon. Created jointly by the United States and Israel, Stuxnet was designed to target Iran's nuclear enrichment facilities at Natanz. It specifically sought out Siemens industrial control systems and caused physical damage to uranium-enriching centrifuges by making them spin at destructive speeds while reporting normal operation to monitoring systems. Stuxnet crossed a line that had never been crossed before. It proved that malware could cause real-world physical destruction, and it opened the era of nation-state cyber warfare. Every government on the planet took notice. The rise of ransomware represents the most financially devastating chapter in malware history. While early versions existed in the late 1980s, most notably the AIDS Trojan of 1989, which demanded payment via postal mail to a P.O. box in Panama, ransomware truly exploded in the 2010s with the widespread adoption of cryptocurrency. CryptoLocker in 2013 was a turning point, encrypting victims' files and demanding Bitcoin payment for the decryption key. Its operators collected an estimated $3 million before the botnet infrastructure was taken down by law enforcement. But nothing prepared the world for WannaCry in May 2017. Exploiting a vulnerability in Windows systems called Eternal Blue, which had been stolen from the National Security Agency and leaked by a hacker group, WannaCry spread autonomously across the globe, infecting over 200,000 computers in 150 countries within a single day. The United Kingdom's National Health Service was brought to its knees. Surgeries were cancelled. Ambulances were diverted. Total damages exceeded $4 billion. Attribution pointed to North Korean state-sponsored hackers, illustrating that the line between cybercrime and geopolitical conflict had permanently blurred. NotPetya followed just weeks later in June 2017, initially appearing to be ransomware but revealing itself to be something far more sinister, a pure destructive wiper disguised as ransomware. Targeting Ukraine initially, it spread globally and caused approximately $10 billion in damages, making it the most financially destructive cyber attack in history to that point. Shipping giant Maersk lost approximately $300 million alone, and the company had to reinstall 45,000 PCs and 4,000 servers from scratch. Modern malware has become extraordinarily sophisticated. Today's threats include fileless malware that operates entirely in memory, leaving no trace on disk. They include supply chain attacks, like the SolarWinds compromise of 2020, where attackers inserted malicious code into legitimate software updates and infiltrated over 18,000 organizations, including multiple U.S. government agencies.